you're in Coda, you know it's time here
It's time.
for the AltaCast here on Mutiny Radio with your host, I'm Pam Benjamin, and Latoya, the Sheriff of Truth.
Ow! That was a
Made
sad
it.
howl.
I know it's
That was the
Halloween
saddest howl.
next week.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
You get to put on a black face. I'm kidding.
That microphone's funky.
Is it funky?
No, it's okay. It's back.
Okay.
It was getting a
Maybe
little.
it's the wire.
It's the
It's the wires.
Things are crazy. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm okay so far this week.
I finally learned how to dress for tips since I work on Wednesday. I'm doing it today. I'm wearing short shorts, tights, so they're kind of sexy, but like not. I don't know how it's working. I finally learned it's like scoop neck.
That's
show
cute,
show the
though.
armpit hair. I don't know if you can see on
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make the armpit hair look good.
Making it work.
Yeah, making it twerk.
Yeah, hey, get those tips. My favorite thing is when so where I work, we take cards, and in a bar that only takes cash, but we take cards.
That's funny.
And but people tip on the cards and it's different. And I just like it when people pay cash because then they tip in cash.
Right.
And I like that better. And so I love it when the credit card machine goes down because
Really?
has to pay in cash, and then they actually tip in cash. That's so great.
So people will go, well, okay, yeah, I forgot, like the bar is
Yeah.
cash only, so you have to use the ATM anyway. Get
Right.
that $3 surcharge.
Right. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah. I have a credit union, so I get reimbursed.
It's so nice. Well, money is how it's so scary.
Yeah, because we don't have enough of it.
Well, and why do we need so much of it? Well, now the prices are going up. Like, the minimum wage is $15 an hour, which is insane. I mean,
It should be 25.
well, but I remember working. Okay, this was 1990. I was a babysitter for the summer, and I was very young, but I was paid like $3.25 an hour, and I was like, "This is amazing." 3.25 an hour, and I worked like 8 to 10 hour days with this one baby. Her name was Keely. She was just a sweet little baby.
Oh, now she's an adult.
Now she's an adult.
She's probably got kids now.
Probably. But Keely, she was just a doll. But $3.25, and I thought I was making bank. I saved up all this money on this during that summer, and
That's funny that you say that because I worked at IHOP. This is in St. Louis, Missouri, between the years 1997. I was in high school, 97 to 2000. So all 3 years of high school, I worked there. And I worked on tips. And I kid you not, our minimum wage was $2.25.
$2.25. But that was in misery.
Yeah, I was in misery.
Yeah.
And you know, we did this several months ago when we looked up the minimum wages in each different state.
Sure.
And some of those are still like around like 3, 5, 25.
It's unbelievable.
Which even if you are living in Oklahoma or like Kentucky, that's still not enough.
Well, it depends what your rent is. I mean, I think people's rents aren't as exorbitant as
Yeah,
they are here.
but
in the city.
$5.25 an hour.
Right. That's,
And when you knock down tax,
Sure,
so
yeah,
that's
oh,
three.
yeah,
So
making
you were making more
75.
bank. You actually, technically, you were making bank, you know, because you weren't worried about taxes.
I don't think that when I was young. Yeah,
Yeah.
babysitting was always under the table.
So
So-
technically, if you're still living in a state where it's $5.25, $5.50 an hour, you knock off taxes, you're making $3.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ,
Well,
that's sad.
speaking of the Midwest, I actually am going to be opening for Steve Poggi at the.
You're going to STL.
I'm going. No, I'm actually going to Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, even
To the
someplace
Looney
worse.
Bin, the Looney Bin in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh,
I'll be the MC and host for the evening. I get to do 15 minutes,
Wow.
and then I introduce the middle act, and then Steve Poggi's the headliner. And I am freaked out because I've got to be
Don't.
like kind of clean, and I've been trying to work on my jokes that are pretty clean. But then I realize like even my jokes that I think are pretty clean, like wanting to win the science fair, is still, I talk about, like, the big punchline of that joke is me using my own breast milk to make TH cheese.
That'll work in Arkansas because they
Yeah.
have medicinal.
Oh, they do? Well,
Yeah.
then good. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, how can I gotta talk about weed? Am I allowed to talk about weed?
You can. I mean, Arkansas is not that bad. I mean, you're in Little Rock,
Little Rock.
so Little Rock's not. It's pretty dope. There, you know
It's
what?
pretty dope, but
Shut up. Ha ha ha.
I actually get paid for this. I'm very excited. I already bought
You're
those
actually
tickets.
on a little tour.
Yeah, it's something's funky.
Is there
with
something?
The, yeah, I try.
I
to,
might switch it
there you
over.
go. There you go. I try to keep it in the.
Should I
I
do?
either
Is it
switch
with
to a different.
this?
If you're gonna hold it, switch to a different guy, or
I
because I
would
don't know
switch
why
to
that
another
one.
guy.
Yeah, I'll pull it down. So there's. I'm excited about going to
Does this one
Little
work?
Rock. Yeah, it definitely works.
Okay.
I just have to curl it around. There's 6 new shows here at Mutiny Radio, so I've been training a bunch of people, and I'm realizing that as I'm spending more time in the studio, that people switch things around all the time, and it's crazy here.
They weren't raised right.
No,
Ooh, now I can
there
hear
you
it.
go. There you go.
That
Yeah,
works.
that one's probably better than the other one for whatever reason. But people,
Put it back.
yeah, people don't know how to put it back, and it's hard because I've been talking to a lot of people that are like, oh, the show before me is, you know, they don't leave on time, and then they leave a mess and all this stuff, and I'm like, I mean, I can talk to them, but I'm like, you can talk to them too. Like, you're the one that's there. Just tell them.
Act like you've got some damn sense.
Well, I remember back in the day when I was doing Fantastics, way, way, way back in the day, there was a show before me that was 6 to 7:50 or 8 o'clock. And every time it'd be like 2 minutes to my show starting. And one time I finally was like, get the fuck out. I like yelled at him. It turned out it was their last show anyways, which was fine. And I was super happy about it. So I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I gotta start my show, and I like to start at 8 on the dot. I mean, get
You got
out.
fed up.
I was like, they saw all the comics coming in, signing up, and I was like, I've got to get my show started. And every time they'd be on the microphone at like 7:58, and I was like, God damn it! They just didn't have any respect.
Inconsiderate people. I don't like them. I don't associate with inconsiderate people.
I don't think they know they're being inconsiderate, though. I think that's the problem that we're dealing with in our society as a whole right now, is that people who are being what I would consider evil, short-sighted, self-centered, they don't know it. What I'm talking about is when people are coming out of a store on a busy street, and they're looking at their phone, or they're not even looking at. You're coming out of a door onto a busy street. Look around.
up.
Look up.
Look up.
Know your surroundings. And then if they bump into you, they don't even say sorry. Okay, now, are they purposely being evil? No, they're being short-sighted, self-centered, entitled, like, I'm supposed to be looking out for you. You don't have to look out for me, but I need to look out for you. Like, excuse me? So I don't think they think they're being evil, but when I see that on the street, I want to fucking punch a bitch.
Well, it's
Like,
almost like, have you run into any kind of customers, like, since you've been at whatchamacallit, vendors,
Counter offer.
when you're trying to get someone's order and they're just looking at their phone,
Oh, yeah.
and it's just like, do you want to get this done? I can't talk to you while you're looking down on your screen.
Well, and then this happened the other day. Someone got upset because they were deciding, and someone else knew what they wanted, so they
So
came
step
up to
aside.
me. They came up to me to order, and the person who was standing there in front, like, gave them this death growl eye stare, like how dare you? I was first, and it's like, yeah, you were first, but you didn't know what you wanted, so
There's other people behind you
waiting that know what they want.
It's called being
And
considerate.
we're here at the grip. We're right here. We could cook. You could see us cooking it for you. You'd see like,
You're holding everyone up,
yeah, come
and it's not
on.
just about you.
Right. It's so hard.
Yeah,
And
that's
everyone thinks
yeah.
it's about them.
I'm sorry. I think some people have been so spoiled and entitled the majority of their life, and it goes throughout different classes or what have you. But it just feels like, have a bit of consideration, especially like working in the service industry where you want to make sure everyone's happy and take
Hell
care of
yeah.
everybody, because that's how you get your day and everything floating in a positive way.
And that's how you get your tips. And that's
Exactly.
how people come back and they like you and they remember you.
Right.
And they think, oh, I had good service here and I enjoyed that person.
You don't know what kind of relationship you can build off that.
Yeah.
And you want to always have a positive one. So it works for everybody, not even just about you, but other customers. And I just hate there's always that one that always has to like hold up something for everybody. I'm like,
I think that, and this is a big leap, but to get political about it,
Yes.
entitlement is what creates sexual assault.
mhm.
Like,
Let's get into it.
when men sexually assault women, a lot of times they don't even know they're doing it because they feel that they're entitled
Right.
to that woman's body. Like, her body isn't her own, it doesn't matter.
I'm the man.
The man, right, so that they're somehow entitled to comment on our bodies or to touch inappropriately bodies. It's an entitlement issue. It's when you get 12 frat guys together,
Sure.
they feel so entitled. They're like, well, we're having this party and we get these bitches drunk so that we can, touch them when they don't.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, so 12 frat boys together is a date rape. I mean,
It totally
it's
is.
12 cats is a clouder. 12 cats
Yep.
is a confusion of cats.
Get
It's
4 frat boys together. It's a
and
date rape.
It's a date rape.
Ugh.
It's as a group. It's like
It's a
getting
group effort.
12 lesbians together is Tuesday taco night. Taco Tuesday.
No, you're absolutely right.
But it's the entitlement is what creates. So Kavanaugh in high school felt entitled to touch this woman's body, and I feel like high school boys feel entitled to. I took you out to dinner. It's the same thing with Tinder. I bought you a drink. I'm entitled to your time, or to talk, or to make out with you, or to.
Right.
There's an entitlement there, and when you say, "Wait, this is my body," you don't get to. Then they're like, "Oh,
You're being a
then
bitch.
Yeah, right.
You stupid whore. You slut.
So it's, I mean, we have to tap back on this entitlement thing. Otherwise, I mean, that's what we're creating in our society right
And you're so right about that. And the fact of the matter is just like this whole thing like I'm the man. I should be dominating you. You're. It's not about your body. It's about me getting off.
now. Right, and and the thing is, we're even more liberal in our country. But there are countries in the world where women still can't drive. Like, didn't it just?
In Saudi Arabia, just recently, women were able to drive, but
a woman belongs to a man so much that, and I've been studying the New Testament right now. I'm such a fucking weirdo. But I've been studying the New Testament, and the church says some really bizarre things about wives belonging to husbands, and but then the thing is that husbands also belong to wives. If you read in Corinthians, Paul starts talking to the church, and the church asked him questions about marriage, sexuality, partnership, divorce, these kinds of questions. And when he went to answer them, he did it ambiguously in that he supported the women and the men, but people can take it out of context and just take the verses where it says a woman should serve their husband in conjugally.
Right. That's what they did too.
And you take it out of context, and any pastor can say, here's the verses, look at this. And although there wasn't equal representation in the text, you can skew the text any way you want. And it's the subjugation of women because it's a powerful thing. Men are entitled to.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. I was married and I felt like, and I was raised very Christian, that men are, when you're married, that's consent. It's forever consent. Once you get married, you belong to your husband. Whenever he'd like to have sex, your consent was already given in the contract of marriage. This happens in many different countries, religions. Like, let's go to the Middle East. Let's check it. I mean,
even in white supremacy, they feel that way.
Right? So what? And then we have to go back to like, if people feel entitled, that sort of gives them the okay that I'm not being racist, I deserve this. I'm not being sexist, this is mine. It's the entitlement that gives them so they don't think they're being evil. I don't think that white supremacists think they're evil. I think they think they're doing good. I really, really do. Because how else could you? It's the same thing. Donald Trump, I think he thinks he's doing good.
I think I have to disagree with you. I think they're doing evil.
I think they're doing evil too, but I think they think they're doing good. I mean, Monday with the trans thing. Okay, so now trans people. So now, not only do women not to get to make the choices over their own bodies with their sexuality that we're trying to push back the Roe v. Wade, but now people cannot decide their own gender. We don't trust people enough to say, hey, this is the gender of my choice. We're saying, nope, it's this or this. We're in the bathrooms again. Why are we back in the bathroom? Why do we fucking care?
Why is it any of your fucking business?
If a person wants to choose their gender as meow, I'm fine with it. Be a cat. Be a man. Be a woman. Be a cis. Be a trans. Call yourself whatever you want. Him, her, they. I don't give a fuck. Call yourself what? Why do we fucking care?
I just, you know when that trans thing came out on Monday, who had a tweet about it? that hypocrite Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh, what?
Yeah, so
She
she,
supports. She's a Trumpy supporter.
yes, exactly, right? But yeah, yeah, she's made some tweets about, like, I'm very disappointed with our president, what he's doing to the LGBTQ people, blah blah blah, all this bullshit, just regurgitation of the mouth. But bitch, you knew what you signed up for. This was all on the table. So all of a sudden you're like shocked that he's rolling back on some of the things of what he's doing with trans folk. It was all there. It was, the seed was planted for you.
The thing that I'm so scared about.
I can't.
Well, this is what's so scary, is that we are so dumb now that we're unable to learn from the past. This is some Hitler shit. This is some serious. I am scared. This is some Hitler shit. The Germans didn't know what was going on until they smelled burning bodies, maybe, and they were like, some shit is going down
Some
over
shit
there
is
in
on fire.
Bergen-Belsen. There's something happening. They're like, there's this weird camp out there. Something's happening that's weird. And the trains go by, and those aren't cows.
Why don't we see some of our neighbors anymore?
Suddenly, 4 million people were exterminated, and the Germans were like, what? Like, and that's what's happening right now in the United States, is that we're starting to be okay with these atrocities against dehumanizing women, people of color, and LGBT folk, and people who choose their gender, which is a fluidity and a choice that we've decided. But no, we're going to roll this back. We're rolling away personal choice, and I feel like it's going to be the same thing. I feel like all of a sudden Americans are going to be like,
Next is handicap.
right? So it'll be handicapped people, the gays, the ladies, and people of color continue to be subjugated by the rich white folk. And what's going to happen? Are we suddenly, is it going to be when they cart us off the camps, or they start forced sterilization like they used to of people of color in the 20s? Is that what we're back to?
Well, they already started putting people in camps, like the tents.
Right, immigrants.
Yeah.
So the bad people are brown people, immigrants, women, and the gays, and we're rolling back civil liberties. We're rolling back human rights in our own country, and you don't even see it and don't care. We're coming up to a voting point. You have to care, people. This is an impassioned plea. Don't let this happen again in the history of the world. Don't let fascism rule our lives until we're like, now we can't do anything because we've let the fascism get so pervasive that then we're going to be scared, and everyone's going to be in their houses on their little notepads, on their little computers, scared of the terrorists. Are we scared of people in the bathroom? Like, what are we talking about?
I have something to show you, and you have to look this up. 2 things. You mentioned the Nazis. So something weird happened yesterday here in California, where an old World War II Nazi craft crashed on the 101, which seemed like kind of like a metaphor or something.
Oh my God.
It was really weird. No one died, but it's, oh gosh, maybe, yeah, it's I forget, it was in Southern California. You found it.
Yeah.
So like this World War II Nazi aircraft was flying, and they had to do an emergency flight. It ended up crashing on the 101, which is a very busy highway throughout the whole state of California. And so with the election coming up, it was kind of like it seemed like it was a metaphor of something, like hopefully it means that the Nazis are going down, because we already are seeing the rise of fascism going on. And it was so odd. Like, my boyfriend showed me this before I went to bed last night. So weird. And then number 2, something else, after you're done looking this up, there is this awesome op-ed that Niecy Nash did, I love her. She was like on Reno 911, and she's on that show Claws. And she did something, it's an op-ed for the New York Times, and it's called, it's a whole skit. I think we should play it for you after we're done looking this up. But it is a very scary time, especially with the fact of, like, there was the voting purge going on in all these different states where a lot of the
Yeah,
governors
Georgia.
yeah, in
Voting
Georgia.
purge in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been reading about that. The thing, because the election's really close in Georgia. And then in Texas, too, there's the voting purge going on there. Oh, what'd you find?
Oh no, this is just a small vintage plane crash landed on lanes of the 101 freeway in Agora Hills Tuesday, bursting into flames, and amazingly, the pilot walked away. The North American SNJ-5 airplane, with the pilot aboard as the solo occupant, crashed near the center lanes of the northbound 101 freeway near Liberty Canyon at about 1:15 p.m., according to the LA County Fire Department. The plane's wing, still aflame, was draped over the center divider as crews worked to extinguish the blaze, and amazed commuters recorded video. The back end of the plane appeared to be missing as the fire continued to burn on the lanes. It took off from Van Nuys Airport, a spokesman confirmed. Who's got it? Who's flying a...
Some of the tweets are really
man,
funny
I mean,
about it.
This
Like,
is crazy to me.
yeah, I'm like, it's such a metaphor of so many things, or a sign of so many things. It was just like a little fun antidote to the tragedy that is happening in our everyday lives.
What did Nisi do here? The positive swimsuit selfie photo?
Oh, Niecy Nash, New York Times,
Oh, okay.
and
The New York Times.
yeah, so I've been sending this out to everybody, and I put it under my Facebook post. Um, let's see, it is,
The next barbecue bet.
yes, that is it.
Oh my goodness.
We definitely have to play
Shoot,
this for.
I'm having trouble today with the mouse is too responsive. There we go. And
Yeah,
all
this
these
is gonna
crazy
be-
things are happening.
The purge is near us.
Yeah, things are getting crazy. To the next barbecue Becky, don't call 911. Call 1-844 WYTFEAR.
White fear.
Oh, white fear.
So
I
there's a
knew-
whole sketch, and hopefully it'll pop up on there.
Well, the computer box. It wants to sell us something else, or it wants something
What
else
it
to
is.
happen. I don't
We
understand.
cannot escape advertising. God
Yeah,
damn it.
and then you'll
Oh,
see
there it
this show
is.
certificate. It can't identify. I'm like, I don't care.
Oh, all right,
um,
this is it.
So,
Oh,
I
this
I
is-
can't really play it off of here because of we have to do it on the other one anyways. There's a satirical infomercial. The comedian actress Niecy Nash plays the inventor of a new hotline, 1-844 White Fear. The video advertises a phone service for white people to call when they can't cope with black people living their lives near them. The hotline is up and running, so give it a ring and spread the word. Seriously,
It actually is a real
it
hotline.
exists. So here's the instances of.
It's on YouTube as well.
Yeah. In October 2018, North Charleston, South Carolina, when members of an anti-violence march stopped by a gas station to buy drinks, they called a black person. Ponte Verde, Florida, when a father yelled at his son at a soccer game.
That was recent.
Brooklyn, after a boy's book bag hit a woman's backside in a store.
We talked about that one last week.
Marietta, Georgia, when a man was babysitting 2 white children.
That was last month.
That's insane.
Yeah.
September 2018, Boston, when a woman filed a complaint about damaged bags after a flight. Remember that? Dane County, Wisconsin, when a state house candidate was canvassing a neighborhood.
Yeah.
Amherst, Massachusetts, when a university employee looked upset while walking across campus. Don't have that resting bitch face. They're gonna call the cops on you. This was in August. Milwaukee, when a man was trying to get change from his car. Brooklyn, when a woman tried to avoid the rain by standing on a stoop. Northampton, Massachusetts, in July, when a student was eating on campus. Mountain View, California, when a woman donated food to the homeless.
Yeah, that was outside the Safeway.
Victoria Park, Florida, when a woman attempted to cash a check at a bank. Buffalo, when a woman attempted to use several coupons at the dollar store.
Oh, that was in Chicago.
San Francisco, when a man was checking the alarm at his own store.
Yep.
Sterling, Virginia, when a player at a pickup game of basketball fouled too hard. Yeah. Chicago, when a woman attempted to use a coupon at a pharmacy. Don't use coupons.
Don't use coupons.
Atlanta, when a college student was canvassing for a congressional candidate. Upper Arlington, Ohio. And when you're canvassing, you are donating your time. That is crazy to me. When an 11-year-old was delivering newspaper, Upper Arlington, Ohio, because 11-year-old children are scary. Scary when they're brown. They could be doing something really bad. Winston-Salem, North Carolina, when a woman using her residential community pool refused to show her ID.
Oh, I found.
Don't let her use the water fountain either. So in order to do that, you have to take the iTunes and put it on, pull the volume down. Just pull the curtain back for everybody.
3, right?
Well, no, they both will come out of 3, but because 3 has iTunes playing on it, you have to get to iTunes and then either press pause or just pulling the curtain back. I've been training all week, so I've been doing this for people and telling them. So you have to open up the iTunes.
That's iTunes right there, right?
No, it's at the bottom. There you go. Yeah,
Stupid.
There you go.
And then pause.
Pause or throw the volume down. Either way. So
Pause
then
for the
you want to
cause.
go back to the Safari.
And then you go back
Yeah,
down
you
here.
can leave them both open too if you want. But I've been training this week. I'm training 6 new shows. It's crazy. So yeah, it's really great. It's kind of saving the station. Or not. I mean, it's not saving the station. Just making it easier for me. But if you want to have a show, we still have a lot of open time. 415-550-0511. Just press pause and then we'll start it again.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because I have to bring up the volume over here. Start it up again. Here we go. White flight.
All these are true. And that's real footage.
Should we call this? Can we actually call that number?
You can actually call that number.
Let's call that number.
All right, let's do it.
Was it 844? So we've got to move the. You've got the camera. Hey, everybody. We're gonna call this number live. I'm super excited about it.
Should I bring it up again?
We just tell me the number again, and
okay.
we'll. I'm just gonna move this. Just gonna grab this phone. Hey.
Our janky stand right there.
That's going on. So we're gonna turn the phone on. What's the number?
1-800 white fear. So WYT and then fear.
F-E-A-R. Oh, it's beeping like weird. Let's see. Let's try this again. Okay. So 1-800-WYTFEAR. Why is it not dialing? Why am I not allowed to dial out? I'd really like to do this, but I'm having trouble like figuring out how phones work. Like I don't know how to use a real. This is a landline. It's like I don't
It's
know how to
acting
use.
funny. Now I can't hear a down tone.
Well, I turned down the
Oh.
thing. Oh, okay, that one worked. 1-800-WYTFEAR. Okay, so I don't know why that didn't work.
Let's see. I'll look up the number again.
Yeah, we're trying to do it.
We're going-
I'd like to
It
make this work.
it totally works. I just gotta let's go back. Looking
it's-
for a
Was
white
it like
fear.
1888 or 1844 or something?
Let's see. Let me make sure it was 188.
1-800-WYTFEAR.
Oh right. White fear. Oh, it's 1844.
1844. I thought
We-
that was it.
all
I thought it
right.
was it. 1844 WYTFEAR.
Oh right. We got it this time.
Wow. I love this music.
I know.
What happens when you press 1? I think that that's just what it does. Well, it's hilarious and wonderful, and I'd love to know what they're saying in Spanish. But I am super excited that exists. And,
I wonder if people are going to take it seriously.
well, that's hilarious. That's fucking hilarious.
I think that, see, God bless Niecy Nash for that one.
Absolutely.
That's ridiculous.
But that's what's happening right now. I'm so scared that we're so scared of black and brown people. But the thing that does scare me now, I don't even know who the person was. The only thing that I would say that scares me right now, like really scares me, is like that shit that happened at the BART station at MacArthur.
Oh, yeah.
And 2 girls getting their throats slit. I don't know what
It was
color the
just the
perfect
one.
person was.
She was black. The guy was, he had a long jail record.
But was he black or white?
He was white.
He was
And,
white?
Yeah, and then they said he was possibly maybe associated with the Proud Boys.
I don't know what that
Oh, the Proud Boys is this alt-white group that I believe Richard Spencer. I don't know if he's a founding member, but I'm sure he has a card of this fascist group. And last week, I believe they were out in New York, and they beat up some Antifa protesters and what have you. And it was caught on tape. So
And Antifa is anti-fascist. So
Yeah.
they're good people. They're
Yeah.
like, fascism is bad.
So we're gonna kick your ass. You gonna beat us? We're gonna beat you back. I'm sorry. I'm at that point where it's just like, I slap a fascist.
I mean, I just have to keep going back to the concept that fascists think they're doing the right thing. They have to.
by history standards, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but they think they're doing. I think even Hitler at the time thought that he was doing the right thing, and that's the scariness.
It's because those people have low self-esteem.
Well, I mean, what is it that we have to remove the power from women and people of color? Why? What is? I think that we're just not even. Maybe we're so far away from like emotional, feel energy, humanity that we can't. I just it's so hard for me, but they're people. So I'm trying to like empathize with them as people and say, like, the person who drove his car, or they killed a bunch of people in South Carolina with the car and the stuff, and they ran over people. They thought they were doing the right thing, right? Like they're like, I gotta kill these people.
No, that was hate.
But
that was
they're like, I want to kill people because I hate them. Or
yeah.
But isn't the purpose like, I'm gonna kill people because I hate them because they're so bad and I'm so right, and what I believe
I'm so
is
right.
so. But these people truly believe that what they're doing is right. I can't see it any other way. I can't see that our president is like, I am an evil piece of shit and I want to further subjugate people who are already subjugated. We're finally acknowledging, gender fluidity and gender choice, and saying that people are people, no matter what bedroom gymnastics they choose, and what does it have to do with anything? Like, how you please yourself sexually should have nothing to do with your political stance, or with your ability to have a job, or your ability to not be beat up on the street. Like, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is what is written in the Constitution, and yet now we're saying these aren't people. They can't pursue happiness because now they are
fill in the blank.
Right.
Because there's so many. I mean, I think it's all about fear. I really do. It's fear of the unknown, and it's those people, they might think they're doing right, but they know they're doing wrong. The man that killed the woman, Heather. I think you were talking about the woman in Charlottesville, the guy that drove the car through the crowd and he killed Heather Heyer. He knew he was out for justice, like his white justice. So he's out to kill and murder people.
But when you're speaking of quote unquote justice, that implies that they think that they're correct, that there's something that was.
And that's why hate is a disease.
But but we see it as hate, and they see it as that's just what I'm trying to get at, is like, because I keep talking to people and they're like, well, people are created good. All people are created good. And it's just where we get skewed is where our morality lies, and what influences and like funds our morality.
Their environment. And
but people believe in the Christian thing that women, and the Muslim thing, women aren't good enough, that women should always serve a man, that we're not people, that people are people, that people can be chattel, or people can be like, it somehow gets back to the entitlement and the thing that people think that they're doing the right thing. I think they really do. And until we like diagnose that and figure out like, how do we...
Those people are fucking stupid, because you have a whole history to tell you that the shit doesn't work out in the end. And the fact of the matter, and these people usually are the ones that don't know their history.
But it does seem to work out for the rich people, because they keep getting richer, and it seems that when you...
Now, are you talking about white supremacy or economics?
Well, I think that one is a tool of the other, like...
Yeah.
Economics is a tool of white suppression.
Because you have a lot of course...
oppression.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of white supremacists who are wealthy as well. We have one in the White House. He actually last night called himself a nationalist.
See, this is so scary. This is so scary.
He just didn't say white.
We're rolling back personal freedoms. We're rolling back civil rights, which are ostensibly human rights, for women, people of color, LGBTQ. What's next?
Handicap, I told you.
Handicapped is nice. So, well, and yeah, questionably how. So my father sent me a terrible, terrible email. It's a terrible story, and this is an example of people thinking that they're right. This is just something my father forwarded to me because he knows he loves to get my goat,
Trigger.
and especially about like the city that I live in. So here's the tagline he sends. Let's hear it for the liberals. They've screwed up every city they've been in charge of. Look at Chicago and Detroit. So this is from October 19th, 2018. San Francisco, now so bad, it'll make you cry. This is by Lee DeCovenant. And this really upset me. Here we go. 20th century San Francisco, Herb Cain's beloved Baghdad by the Bay, has ceased to exist. It has been replaced by a city where the sidewalks around Market Street are, in places, caked in feces, urine, and vomit. The stink as you emerge from the BART batters you like frozen sleet, shocking and overwhelming. The hordes of homeless sprawled in doorways and sleeping on sidewalks are a bitterly eclectic mixture of the mentally deranged, burnt-out druggies, dead-eyed hippies, con artists, pickpockets, and hundreds of simply lost, forgotten souls. You forgot old people, asshole. Yeah, a lot of them are old, and we just don't care about them anymore. We don't care about old people.
They're part of this generation.
Yeah, they're your generations. Yeah, they're dead-eyed hippies. They are
baby boomers.
They are people who served in Vietnam that you didn't give a fuck about, and now they live on the streets. Oh, do they have mental health issues that we can help with? I don't know. I had occasion to visit downtown San Francisco this afternoon, the first time in over 7 years, though I reside only 30 miles away in the East Bay suburbs. During my working life, I have commuted to San Francisco as a bushy-tailed junior executive in the 70s, as a small business owner in the early 80s, and as a corporate executive in the 90s. Thankfully, old San Francisco really was a wonderful place to work, eat, and play. As I walked 3 blocks back to the BART, I was panhandled 4 times, plus 2 clumsy pickpocket attempts. Liar. 2 clumsy... Nobody's trying to pickpocket. I've lived in the Tenderloin for 11 years, and no one's ever tried to pickpocket me. I didn't see a single cop in a car or on foot. What could they do? Okay, back to the pickpockets. You rich motherfucker. Yeah, why don't you give people money? Oh, I live in the East Bay in a nice house, and there's no poop on the streets because everybody makes $500,000 a year because we're self-made white people in Danville. We really... I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
What finally broke my heart were the kids and women also lying in the street, drugged, shell-shocked, begging for food. I found an ATM, took out some cash, and bought $25 arch cards from McDonald's and passed them out. The salty tears flowed down my face and onto my lips. My soul, my humanity was abused, sickened, and disgusted. Today, I know that. Give me a fucking... I want to punch this guy in the fucking face. Look, I did my part for the homeless. I came from the East Bay and I gave out $25 to McDonald's.
Which I'm a shareholder for.
Yeah, right. As he puts in quotation the arch cards from McDonald's. You don't think this is sponsored by McDonald's? Fuckbag. Rich fuckbag from the East Bay. Yeah, the reason we don't have it... Okay. Today, I observed a city that carefully and deliberately schemed to become an open sewer. This is far beyond simple incompetence. The magnitude and pervasiveness of this horror remains indescribable.
Such nastiness.
No rational thinking person or board or mayor could allow this societal abomination to continue unabated in a first world country. Yet it does. San Francisco willingly hosts a malignant cancer that has metastasized and destroyed all aspects of a civilized, compassionate society. While skyscrapers fill the skyline, tankers and giant container ships still prowl the bay, the city by the bay's soul has begun its death rattle.
All right, this dude's full of shit. All right.
Fuck you.
Okay, so let's analyze this bullshit, which you are already actually started to do.
It's made me so upset.
Okay.
And having this sent to me.
My boyfriend came here from England in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
He said the fact of the matter, he was thinking, you know, this is in 1997. He's like, well, this city was shitty, and hopefully would get better. 21 years later, It's still shitty.
Yes.
So that was in 1997. Now, let's also dissect the fact that who cut out the programs and the mental institution programs that were going on here?
This is a state issue. This isn't necessarily fully a city issue.
Right, right.
Because we're already giving everybody health care.
Reagan cut out those mental, a lot of the mental institutions and some of the mental illness programs that were to help those who were suffering. So your
How
homeboy
about
Reagan
Vietnam
did that.
vets? How about people who've served in wars for you, for us, and then we just toss them aside and don't give them health care or say, well, you didn't jump through the right hoops to get your health care, so you must be too fucked up for us to help you.
And
Good luck.
Can we also say that San Francisco is a liberal white city? It's a white city, and yes, it is liberal. And then on top of that, don't bring Chicago up in there.
Yeah,
Okay, this football ain't never been to Chicago, and the parts that he's talking about, he would never step foot in on the south side. So you can suck my dick. You can at least eat on the streets of Chicago, like on the corner, without worrying about feces. Because at least Mayor Daley, though he was a piece of shit, he actually cleaned up the city. He cleaned it up a lot.
But we aren't able to even clean up our city because we don't have the funds. I was trying to figure out, like, I thought I had an epiphany the other day, and I thought, am I the smartest person alive? Maybe. But I was like, what can solve the questionably housed problem, the 8,500 questionably housed people that we are not housing, who are of an aging population, and there's youth too, but in San Francisco proper right now. What can we do to solve that? And the only thing I could think of was healthcare.
Ding, 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 ding.
And not just physical healthcare, but mental health care.
Mental.
And you know what else helps healthcare? Keeping people housed. You know, if people are living in a house where there's shelter, they are more able and apt to take care of themselves. And if we have the mental health components in place to help people,
which got cut by Reagan,
which we don't have, mental health components. I mean, not just, like, if you live in San Francisco and you live here and you have a place to live, you can apply for the Medi-Cal and you can jump through the hoops and you can get the help that you need. And, like, I'm on Medi-Cal because it's expensive and I can't afford healthcare, and I'm so lucky that I have that. And I thank the government and the powers that be for making me have healthcare and to feel safe. That's awesome. But why can't we do that for everybody? Why can we, I don't understand. Why can't we provide everybody with the mental health care and the physical health care and the shelter health care that they need?
You know,
when children are coming here, when 26-year-old children are coming here to work for Twitter and making $150,000 a year, why do they need that? Why do the people that work for Google they get free food? How come the people at Google get paid and they get free food? And we can't give 8,500 people a place to live?
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that, because there's a proposition that's coming up that we should vote on. I believe it's Proposition C, where they want basically people like Twitter and Google help basically to raise their taxes, and those taxes help to help the questionably housed and mental illness. One of the guys, he did an op-ed too. He's the CEO of, I believe, Salesforce. He's for the program.
Good.
The fuckface from Twitter, the CEO, is against it because he doesn't want his taxes raised.
Well, and I can understand with the rich people in this way. They say, I am helping the economy, I'm helping San Francisco because I take Uber everywhere, and that has created new jobs for people. I take Lyft, I take Uber. I have created jobs for people that they're making more money, but they're spending more money, and then that's good for the economy of San Francisco. But the people getting left out, raising rents, people living here, it being expensive, the landlords making money, people making money. But the thing is that we can't ignore, it's not us. This is the thing that makes me angry about this letter. And it's exactly the problem. This is a rich motherfucker in fucking East Bay coming here and going, what's all the problem? But what's the problem?
First of all,
I gave $25 to your questionably housed people, and I feel like a fucking saint. Well, we all need to take care of this stuff. I feel like anyone who makes over $200,000 a year should you should have a buddy. It should be like a buddy program. Like when you make over $200,000 a year, you get a questionably housed buddy, and you get to either let
Like a
him
big sister,
stay
big
on your
brother
couch.
program.
Yeah, it's a big brother program. You can either
Big hobo.
you can let him stay in your separate room, or you can pay for a housing somewhere, and that's your big brother program.
Big hobo.
Is that you make so much money, you rich fuck, that you take care of somebody who isn't on their feet, who maybe has mental illness, that maybe does need help, that doesn't have the resources available to them. You have all the resources. You can't share the resources, you selfish fuckbag.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
here's another thing that's really funny about this. I grew up in the suburbs, okay? So let me tell you how fun and crazy and mental the suburbs are. Let's talk about that. So you may have a nice pretty lawn and your white picket fence, but what's going on between those doors is a shit show. And I kid you not, where is the opioid crisis mostly hitting? I wonder.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. Could it be in the suburbs, in the small towns? Shocking.
It's that the more money we've gotten and the more suburban life, we instead of living together, now we live apart. And we feel safer because we have bigger houses and more stuff and there's more insulation. You don't know who your neighbors are. And they're far away. They're on the other side of the fence. And now, but I'm so connected because I'm on Facebook, because I have a tiny computer in my pocket and I'm connected to everyone. But we're disconnected from our humanity. We're like,
thank you.
And on Facebook, it's not real, and everyone's just promoting
Happy pictures.
they're promoting their idealized selves. It's them with a puppy and a unicorn on a fucking rainbow. And how dare you share any real feelings or emotions on Facebook?
Yeah, Pam.
Unless you have cancer. Like, I mean, and I have friends who have cancer, and God bless them. It gives them an outlet, and I love them, and I think they should express themselves. And I think that Facebook should be more real, and it should be a place of support. But it's not, because how dare you express a feeling or say that you're disappointed.
Or you had a shitty birthday.
Yeah. Well, and I got chastised for that. So, because I had a real feeling and I shared it with the world. And why would you do that? It makes you look so bad. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a real person and I try to connect with my feelings and emotions. But still, today I stepped over tons of people on my way to the 9 bus when I was walking.
And it
through
is
the
a
Timberline.
problem. It's an issue.
Huge
And we
problem.
talk about it all the time. But what this fuckface
fuck
is,
this
I mean, this person doesn't live in this kind of environment. So this person just watches what they see on the TV or because also the media is a big problem. They like to sell this propaganda, you know, and it's honestly, it's not a liberal conservative problem. It's a humanitarian problem.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I'm from a conservative state now, and some of the places in small towns I've been into are garbage. But to me, I don't go around, well, look at this conservative town. Oh, look, it's all shit. No, it's sad the fact that these people are being ignored. Because living in the city,
8,500 people, and I'm doing it too. I am
right?
The problem.
We're all guilty. We're all guilty of it. I take some responsibility for it. You do too. But it's also the fact of like, there's only so much that a person that we could do.
Right. The one thing we can do, and Jonathan is so sweet about it, is he always gets an extra piece of pizza for Fuck My Life. The guy who lives on our block, who's been there since we've been there, and he lives somewhere in the Tenderloin on the streets. And we don't know his real name. We call him Fuck My Life because he yells into the mirror, "Fuck my life!" And so it's a tiny thing, and I don't want to like break my arm patting ourselves on the back like,
No.
"Look, we're helping." Like that's what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
I spent $25 on McDonald's arch cards. You know what? And he's even lying because where is there a McDonald's? The only McDonald's is down by Montgomery Street, so he must have been by Montgomery. But there aren't that many questionably housed down there. I thought maybe he was talking about Powell because that's right in the center of the Tenderloin, also Civic Center. But near Civic Center and near Powell, there's no McDonald's. Oh no, there is one on Market. No, that one closed. So
There used to be
so
one
I feel
on.
like he's lying.
This person is full of shit.
Yeah, I feel like he's lying because if you were at Powell, which is where the majority of the people sort of are sleeping around there, and you passed out $25 of arch cards, that means you went all the way down to Montgomery to get to the only McDonald's there because all the other McDonald's have closed. So you're a liar.
And the one on Van Ness has been closed down and knocked out.
Exactly. And there are no pickpockets. You too clumsily. That was the other thing that upset me. This is hyperbole. That you were pickpocketed. That two people tried to pickpocket you. No one has ever tried to pickpocket me. Ever.
I'm not even going to deny that, but it just what it's very childish. It's just saying I'm better than you, and oh my god, you're using this liberal conservative thing when it's not even about that. It's about you giving out some fatty food coupons. Don't make you jeebus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know what? If you want to help, why don't you go and use your time at these soup kitchens?
Yes.
Donate. How about donate money to a program?
Yeah.
Hey, how about vote in the interest of these people?
Yeah.
You know that help benefit them, that get them jobs.
Yeah.
You know, you patting yourself on the fucking back. This is glorification of like your entitlement.
And then people say, I mean, I'm reading right now all of these Christian texts because I'm interested in it, and it's
Lord.
funny when they're talking, when they're talking about welfare recipients. He has some jokes in there, the pastor's book who I'm reading in, Douglas Adams, and he talks about like welfare recipients and how conservatives get angry at people who receive welfare. And yeah, I get $167 a month. And thank you, so that I can live in the city and create all this art.
But do you work?
I work so hard.
Oh,
I just don't get
right.
paid. That's the thing, is if we're not paying people what they're worth because they're a woman or because they're a person of color or because they're an artist, then you get mad because we need the services. I need it's $167 a month. It's like nothing.
That's nothing
People
compared
go
to the tax
Costco.
cuts, which is a form of social welfare.
Right.
That's welfare too.
Yeah.
How about the bailout in 2008? That's welfare.
Low battery. Oh.
Oh, low battery, y'all. This show.
I think we have that thing over there.
The charger. Thanks.
iPhone thing.
But corporate welfare, that's millions, but billions of dollars that are given to the 1% in corporations. So, but they're not talking about that. And there's this mythological character of people sitting on their ass collecting welfare checks it's not even a real thing. It's not. That's almost a mythological thing about like people stealing votes and people you know, wanting to voting ID laws so those people won't steal their votes and all. It's just sometimes it's fear. It's the fact of you're too uncomfortable to get into the shit.
This is I looked up conservative view of welfare recipients. Oh God, there's a picture of Ivanka Trump. I just don't think it's fair that it's like we're back to a monarchy.
Oh yeah.
Right? Conservatives love small government till it comes to welfare. Fear of enabling big government is the usual conservative objection to federal spending for the public good, especially where the poor are concerned. Conservatives typically claim that they don't object to poor people receiving assistance. They just think the government ought not to be the agents of delivery, as this would represent an unconscionable expansion of state power. Why then do conservatives tend to be so enthusiastic about making welfare programs as invasive and hegemonic as possible? Recently, this is by Elizabeth Bruning. Recently, I argued that Senator Marco Rubio, Republican Florida, and Ivanka Trump's paid parental leave plan, which would now require new parents to borrow from their own Social Security and retire later than otherwise they would have, penalizes parents for their decision to have children. Not surprisingly, conservatives disagreed with my analysis. On Twitter, Rubio himself argued that however flawed, his plan is still better than the status quo. And the National Review writer Alexandra DeSanctis claimed that what bothered her about my argument was its suggestion that being authentically pro-family and pro-children requires embracing one specific and extreme model of government action. DeSanctis argued that although she opposes an ever-expansive welfare state, she is nonetheless thoroughly pro-family. The argument was about means, in other words, not ends. Similar pieces about the idea from Heritage, Federalist, Town Hall, and the American Enterprise Institute all share this point of view. And yet the expansion of state power in the context of welfare programs is often the direct result of conservative legislation, not simply a byproduct of welfare programs themselves. This is especially the case when it comes to restrictions of personal freedom. Consider
Uh-oh.
It's okay. It wants to connect to your iTunes. Consider the Rubio-Trump plan, for instance. What's more invasive? Receiving a check from the state for the duration of your parental leave and then moving on with life, or receiving a check from the state for the duration of your parental leave and then having your date of retirement delayed by the state based on the number of children you had and the time you took off with each. The Rubio-Trump plan clearly involves more monitoring of one's life, more tabulating of one's deeds, more placing strictures on one's decision than does the former. Similar examples abound. President Trump has proposed replacing SNAP benefits, that's my EBT, also known as food stamps, with something called an American Harvest box. The nation's harvest apparently consists of peanut butter, pasta, cereal, canned fruit and vegetables, and shelf-stable milk. Swapping SNAP benefits for a box of rations would of course mean vastly reducing the choices of benefit recipients. Those with special dietary needs, with more infants in the house than children and adults, with allergies or religious commitments, would simply be out of luck. Again, a check in the mail would accomplish more with less intrusion on personal freedoms. The same is true of drug testing for welfare, a proven waste of time and money that nonetheless seems to appeal to Republicans, and replacing work requirements on certain benefits, health care in the latest, for instance, which necessitates that recipients provide state authorities with the daily details of their lives, and potentially that they shape their family and child care decisions around state whims. I have no certainty, it's just more rollbacks of our personal freedoms.
Right.
I have no certainty about what may motivate conservatives to expand the state's purview of control when it comes to welfare. I assume that, as usual, the different things motivate different actors, and most people have a mixture of motivations at any rate. Some may want to discipline and punish the poor, some to sabotage good programs with bad faith adjustments, some to show allegiance to billionaire donors who couldn't care less about the common good. Others may believe the poor are in need of strict paternalism. The conservative often ends with allegations of hypocrisy, which can be satisfying and justified, but don't advance the issue very far. What I can say is that welfare does not have to be invasive, patronizing, hegemonic, or oppressive. The same people who warn you that welfare is all those things are the ones who make it so by attaching intrusive rules to aid programs. In countries around the world, many of which match the United States in terms of development, taking time off to be with your baby doesn't mean delaying retirement. Receiving health care doesn't mean leaving underage, elderly, or disabled family members so that you can meet minimum work requirements. And receive assistance with food costs doesn't mean eating government-assigned peanut butter out of a standard issue box. So when you see aspects of welfare programs that are oppressive and humiliating, keep in mind legislators have chosen to make it that way. There is no law of nature requiring that they be such. When conservative legislators say they want to free people from the degrading power of an ever-expanding welfare regime, the provisions and privatizations they are referring to are, in large part, of their own making. It is possible to put together programs that genuinely promote the common good. It is critical that we not allow ourselves to be convinced otherwise. Dude, it is, don't make it be humiliating for people to eat. I can't believe if they replace my, it's the same thing.
Box.
I get $167 a month to feed myself, and I am able to feed pretty much 2 people on that, and I work hard.
But you also have to budget what you can get and what have you.
Exactly.
So you have to be
And
very
I buy
savvy.
real food, and I buy vegetables, and I buy my food, and I eat my food. I don't.
You
throw
don't
food away.
waste.
I don't waste food, but don't demean me by saying that I don't know how to make choices over what I can put in my
Right.
own body. I can't afford food because I live in an incredibly expensive city and I'm trying to fund a radio station and be an artist. And I'm sorry I'm not monetarily compensated for the
You're a
amount of
working
work I'm
woman.
doing.
You're
I'm a
working.
small business owner, and I'm a woman small business owner, and I'm trying my best to run it with, with my
Right.
socialist needs. I
And-
try not to want or have too much.
Single people do struggle.
We struggle.
I mean, like we back in Chicago, we call it the link card. So it was food stamps. I was on them for a year, and it was after I lost my job. And I did have a savings account, but that savings account paid my rent
Sure.
and my bills so I wouldn't fall behind and lose the roof over my head.
Yeah.
But I also needed help in order for me to eat. And I learned how to actually budget what to eat because I only got $145 a month
Yeah.
at the time.
Sure.
And so I needed to figure out, okay, so how I need a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm gonna have to make more soups, more
Yeah,
casseroles.
exactly.
You
I'm gonna
know,
make more beans, dried beans.
I might spoil myself one time with some crab legs if they're on sale though. Only if they're on sale. And sometimes I did feel kind of humiliated, but I knew I needed that help, and I knew it was temporary.
Sure.
I knew it was temporary, and so for the fact that there's
The thing that makes me crazy is that these conservative people spend $145, $167 at Costco without even blinking. A couple times a week, maybe. And they don't even think that, people. Why? It's just why some people say, well, I worked for it, I deserve it. It's like, but I work hard too. I just don't have your
some people need
job.
help.
Well, but why do we have to all buy into this? Like, I don't want to work for a crazy company. I don't want to work for Twitter. I don't want to work for Google.
But you didn't say you didn't want to work.
I want to work.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that that's the personal freedom of choice. There is a difference between not wanting to choose the corporate world rather than like not working, period, and just being a lazy fuckface. That's not the case. And the majority of the cases are not that. People are there's such thing as called the working poor.
Well, and even if you're being like a lazy fuckface, you're probably taking care of kids at home or doing something else. And having and maintaining a home is a real job.
That's a
and
job.
I'm sorry that it's not monetized in our country at all, but it's legitimate work. The rich people, you're paying someone to clean your house. But the rich people are paying people to clean their house. Oh, I'm a job creator. I'm paying someone to clean my house. Well, there are people who work and don't have time to pay. They don't have money to pay someone to clean their house. Staying at home and keeping a house can be a full-time job. Being a parent is a full-time job.
Right.
And yet, she's being a lazy welfare mom. Fuck you! She's working and not being paid.
You know what's funny is I can see those people right now in their country clubs and they have their nannies for their children watching their kids while they're off playing tennis.
Sure.
And it's just and they're the one complaining about, oh God, so my taxes are going to this.
I know. How much of my money do you want for your poor people?
God, I guess I'll donate during the holidays to the Salvation Army. And the thing is just like these people are so fucking ignorant to. Don't you know your tax break is a welfare?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking that in San Francisco we should apply this. If you make over $1 million a year, you have to have a buddy. You have a street buddy.
Street buddies.
Like, if you make over $1 million a year,
Street buddy.
what could you? If we took the empty buildings that we're still making more buildings for housing and stuff, but we have vacancies in buildings downtown. What if we took those vacant buildings and we turned them into housing? And if you have a buddy, you pay $500 a month. Let's say street buddy, street buddy,
you and me.
Like it would be. Let's see, if it was $500 a month, it would be 5 times 12, $6,000 a year.
That's
nothing. If you make
People
over
wipe
$1
their
million
ass on
a
that.
year, you can't afford $6,000 a year to have a street buddy.
Well,
you could change a person's life. You could. It's like it costs less than a cup of coffee a day. It really, literally does. Like
I would say $2 million because $1 million don't mean shit here in this city.
well, but if you're making, but that's the thing is, if you're making $1 million, $6,000 is nothing. It's like less than your dry cleaning bill. It's why can't we have street buddies? If you gave $6,000, so let's say that 8,500 people all got street buddies, and so they right. 8,500. There's got to be more than 8,500 million people who make $1 million.
I just really want to make. I really want to do a skit on this.
Yeah, street buddies.
Street buddies.
You make over $1 million, you get a street buddy.
Street buddy.
It's like assigned by the city, and we're like, good job. This is your street buddy, and then you get like updates, and your street buddy writes you letters, and they're like,
Get an
"Thank
app
you
on the
so
street
much."
buddy.
Yeah, you can see, hey, civil liberties, freedoms. Who gives a fuck? Yeah, put a tracker on them. I mean, they already have an Obama phone. You already have them traced. Just put a sticker on it with another little chip, and you can be like, "My street buddy right now is making good choices. They're at Safeway buying apples."
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like,
My street buddy's at work right now.
right, my street buddy has a place to live so that they can receive mail, so that they can take a shower, and now they have a job, and they're, it's a room of one's own. Their housing is subsidized. There's food, and it could be done by the city, for the city. Street buddies.
Street buddy and me.
Is it a crazy idea?
It's not a crazy idea, but it's a beautiful sketch.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sketch.
Well,
it's just
you could take your street buddy out to lunch. You could take him to you could take him to a cheap lunch. You could all meet at Rubio's. We can have it be sponsored by Rubio's Fish Taco Tuesday, and everyone goes down there and they get buy one get one free fish tacos for them and their street buddy. Like
your street buddy can be your secret Santa.
it's just like a Tom's. It's just like the Tom's shoes. Like, buy one pair, give a pair to a person in Bangladesh who probably made them. But it's the same thing. Like, buy one taco, get one for your street buddy. We could have all different, like, businesses could get involved. Like Street Buddy Tuesdays. Like the second Tuesday of the month, you can take your street buddy to a museum for free.
That's actually good. Yeah.
Right?
Get some culture with your street.
I feel like street
You
buddies.
you learn something off of each other's different environment.
And some of the street buddies, I feel like anybody over, I mean, okay, I'm getting older, so I feel like, God, maybe 50. Sleeping on the ground when you're 50 is a terrible thing.
Back.
Right? And I keep seeing questionably housed people that are getting older and older and older. And
Baby boomers.
how are we allowing this? I mean, I agree with this guy's article that how are we allowing this to happen? Street buddies.
Street buddies. And the thing is, the SNAP program, these help with, and there's also the CHIP program, which is the children's health thing. Yeah.
WIC, W-I-C.
Yeah.
Kid, yeah, you get.
They're rolling that back, but these are the same people that are pro-life, but you're not helping the life
Once they're alive.
Once they're alive.
Right.
You're cutting into their health care, you're cutting into their food and their education. So how does that, you being pro-life, but you're cutting off a program that helps children?
Because some lives are better than others. It's the old Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. It's once the entitlement comes in, is that
We got
I deserve it because I live in Danville now. So my house cost $4 million. So I'm safe now. I'm
What?
safe.
we have 2 weeks until November 6th.
oh my God.
2 weeks, and which that means I gotta hurry up and read up on some of these things that I have to vote, propositions and what have you. But I'm also watching other states as well, like Georgia, we mentioned, in Texas, and I'm looking at Missouri as well, and Illinois. And who's going to take control of the House and the Senate?
Right.
Because this right here, everything that you read, this is the vote. This is what we're talking about, voting, why it's so important.
Yeah.
And this could be, I mean, the box thing is not going to happen because they found out that it's the food in the box.
This is
yeah, they found out
But then they're talking about it when they were discussing it legitimately.
Right.
It's very, very sad.
they found out it was
and
too
disturbing.
expensive to do. It was
Of
more
course it
expensive
is.
than
Of course
SNAP.
it is.
I'm like, yeah, you think?
And that's exactly what this op-ed was saying, is that taking away people's choices makes it more difficult in the future and ends up costing more.
Right.
If you let people make choices, but it's the same thing, like at Whole Foods, foie gras with food stamps, and like I get shamed, and if calorie for calorie, it really is a good deal. Because when you spend $3.50 on a slice of foie gras pate, that's like 4,000 calories. So if it's $3.50, that's some good calorie
But you're
per
gonna
penny
save for
ratio.
that shit too, aren't you? You're not gonna eat it all in a day.
No, well, it depends how many people are eating it, and if I'm at the park, and I don't like eat foie gras by myself usually.
Right.
I mean,
No, and but that's just like with what I was talking about, like with the crab legs. Like if I could just have that one thing, if it's on sale, if I could get it, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not gonna go willy nilly crazy because I needed that $145 to stretch me that whole damn month,
Yeah. Well, and the
or
other
I'm not
thing
gonna
is,
eat.
if you get, like, let's say crab legs, it's $9.99 a pound. What's the difference between most beef is like $9.99 a pound? The only thing now that's cheaper might be like some hamburger that's pre-ground, but that even could be $5.99, $6.99 a pound. So if you're talking about a lobster or crabs that are $9.99 a pound, it's really no different.
Yeah,
Basically, you're just saying, you poor person, I think that you should eat this because you're not as good as me. So I'm gonna somehow say you're a bad person and you can only eat this food because you're not good enough.
Only
You
spam.
didn't work hard enough to eat like the rest of us, or whatever it means. I mean, it fucking sucks though.
You know, for those who don't know, crab and lobster were peasant foods at one point in time. So I'm just bringing it back as peasant food.
The
But-
Washington Post isn't gonna let me read it. It wants me to read it for $1.
Oh,
Everyone wants me
fuck
to
you.
sign in,
Oh
and
no.
I'm like, I'm not pay. I have to pay for the Washington Post.
That's,
now?
come on now.
That was for. I wanted to see someone was talking about
So-
what happens if the Republicans lose, that Trump's gonna lie about why, the causes of why.
Oh, you know what's going to happen. He's already setting the purge. Like I said earlier, he's calling himself a nationalist. And then there's this whole thing about like he's going around, and a lot of conservative media are going around spreading these horrible lies about the left being unhinged and how we're becoming violent. Oh, by the way,
Are we violent?
no. Compared to most of the hate crimes are done by who? Conservatives, and white supremacists. And by the way, today, just to give you guys a little bit of information, today CNN received a package full of that was supposed to be a bomb, and they had to evacuate the CNN building in New York. And then John Brenner, who works for the CIA, also received a package that they thought it was a bomb. And then there was also I was also reading that the Obamas and Clintons also got a package today.
Oof.
So this rhetoric that is
goodness.
being spread by the right wing, that's what they should be called. They're the ones that are violent.
But this is interesting. This is the conservative stuff. Conservatives construct social issues such as homelessness, poverty, drug use, and crime as individual and family deficiencies. For example, homeless are homeless because they have made poor family and individual choices, and they have done so because of their own deficiencies. In this sense, homelessness is the result of refusing to make better choices. In this way, poor persons, drug users, and criminals are cast as morally irresponsible. So but that's the thing is, conservatives are using this. It's the same thing, like, you're morally irresponsible if you get an abortion. Well, how about if I had access to health care, I would have access to birth control, so I wouldn't have to have an abortion. Maybe if I had access, because IUDs ain't free,
No.
and then they'd say, oh, well, you're having sex willy-nilly outside of a relationship because we're morally making the... God, give me a break. Seriously, you think that people are poor because of a moral deficiency. I get it. It's kind of what I was taught. But really, could it be systemic racism that's been happening in America? Could that be the reason? Could that be the reason that almost every person I saw today who was questionably housed was a person of color? Could it be that we've been systematically subjugating people for years and years and years, and then we go, well, it was a moral deficiency?
Could it also be the fact that a lot of companies have moved to different countries and laid off a lot of workers because the fact that they want cheap labor? Was that a moral choice to get laid off? No.
Are we
And
just
lose my
gonna start-
home?
I think that the first extermination that's going to be happening with the new Nazi regime I mean, I don't want to. I'm just saying,
Watch
it's
out for
really
that
scary.
plane.
It's really scary what's happening. And are we just going to. Actually, we already have been killing people. We've been letting the opiate addiction and overdoses run rampant, and we're just letting people die. It's the first extermination. It's an extermination by being hands off. Well, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. Well, we didn't provide health care for those 68,000 people that overdosed in 2017. We didn't provide them health care. We didn't provide cessation tactics. Hey, people are dying now because they did cocaine in a bar in San Francisco because it has fentanyl. So it's
how
opiate.
easy, right? How easy is it to get fentanyl?
It is everywhere, and that's why we need to have drug testing. Is that you can't just do coke anymore. You can't just do a drug in San Francisco willy-nilly because you might die. Because we don't have, but if we had safe drug testing, if we could like make coasters where you put a little bit on, you go, uh-oh, that's dangerous. Or we have the technology to save lives. We have the technology. We have the Narcan. We can save lives. Not everybody who is overdosing, but that's the thing is they say, well, people who use drugs are amoral people, so they should die. Or whatever they're thinking. What I'm saying, though, is that we're already exterminating our own people through the opiate crisis by saying drug addicts are bad people and they don't deserve health care.
And some places don't, if people are calling 911 for help for an ambulance, sometimes those ambulances won't even come because of that, oh, well, they're overdosing, so we don't have the funds to go and save them because it's just a regular thing here in this all-white conservative town, which is happening all over the place. But you don't get to hear that in the media.
And why are our veterans coming back and becoming alcoholics? Why are we doing drugs? Why are we? Because it is scary to live, to negate our humanity. We're like forced to do it all the time, and
they're cutting the vets, a lot of vet programs. But for those who do have PTSD,
who is worth it? Just white landowners, right? Rich landowners? Are those the only people who are morally good enough?
The know-nothings.
The know-nothings.
The know-nothings.
I mean,
to me,
this is a real. Conservatives construct social issues based on moral choices. You're an amoral person, therefore you don't deserve. What about your morality is right? And that's the thing is they think I think that's evil. I think that what they're doing is evil, but they're coming from a position of saying we have the moral high ground, and it's like you have the moral high ground, but you're being evil, and they're like, no, we're not. We're having the moral high ground. So, what is morality? What are we constructing? And right now, we are constructing our social fabric, saying that racism's okay, misogyny's okay, black people aren't colored, people of color aren't people, women aren't people, homeless people aren't people,
those transgender
people aren't people. People that are gay, they aren't people either, because we are taking a moral stance against.
Because they are pedophiles.
We are taking a moral stance against gay people. Why do you care about how people express themselves sexually? Why do you care?
It's none of your business. And we know what happens when you suppress people sexually. You go to the Catholic Church and become a priest. I mean, here's the thing. There is a point in time that I could say I could understand conservatives when it comes to economics in some sort.
Yeah.
But I think it's just gone so far right to where it's just like I don't understand how, like, first, okay, poor Hiplo. A lot of conservatives don't believe in climate change. You don't believe in science. I just can't wrap my head around the fact of, like, you're living on this earth, you see it, you feel it, but you're going to deny it. And there are people who are a lot smarter than you that are called scientists that have facts and proofs, not hypotheses, but facts, that this is something that's affecting us. It's affecting our food chain. It's affecting our weather. It's affecting our health. But you choose not to believe in something because of maybe something you heard on Fox News, or maybe something that the Koch brothers bought into and said, no, don't believe it, because it's all a money's game anyway. It's all a money's game. But for people to believe in such nonsense that there's no such thing as climate change, who died and made you a fucking scientist?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, even Richard Nixon believed in climate change, and that says a lot. I mean, he wasn't the best president.
Well, I used to think that they wouldn't accept the concept of climate change because we were an oil-based economy. But now, and that we'd never allow electric cars or whatever, but are we still? I guess we're still pretty much an oil-based economy, but we fooled ourselves into being like, but I have a Prius, so everything's okay. But we're taking stuff out of the ground that take millions of years to create, dinosaur bones that turn into oil, and then we're taking it and we're burning it and we're putting it in the air. And we don't go, well, that could make a difference in our environment. Like, it's literally making a constant difference. We can see the polar ice caps melting. We can see the water levels rising. We can see
The water crises that are not just going on in Flint,
yeah.
but in other towns and cities throughout this country, even throughout the world. You know, Richard Nixon created the EPA, but it's now being destroyed by some other Republican cunt and horrible administration by denying that. I mean, people are getting poisonous water. And then fracking. Fracking is another thing. How many earthquakes have there been in Oklahoma because of fracking?
Well, you're taking something out of the ground and you're replacing it with water or whatever else they replace it with. Of course, that's gonna. I mean, it just seems so silly to me that how Flint's water crisis happened and why it isn't
It's
over.
still going on.
It's still going on. In April 2014, Flint, Michigan changed its water source and residents were exposed to high levels of lead and other pollutants. Reporter Anna Clark wrote about the factors that led to this crisis in her book, The Poison City, Flint's Water and the American Urban Tragedy. This is an interview with her on why Flint's officials wanted to change where the city got its water from. Well, this is quotations from her book. It had been relying on water from Lake Huron from the Detroit Water Department for about 50 years. The quality was good, but there was a lot of unhappiness about the affordability. It was extremely expensive, the most expensive or among the most expensive water rates in the country, and especially for a city with a very high poverty rate. This was really getting to the point of crisis. And a lot of folks really felt like, we want our own water system, we want some more control. So it was decided, it was under a state-appointed emergency management, that this was going to switch to a new water department. And until that new water department was built, it was going to temporarily use the Flint River as its drinking water source, a sort of reboot to its 50-year-old water plant to provide there. Treating river water is vastly more complex than treating lake water. The upgrades to the water plant were insufficient to deal with that. On the dramatic announcement of the city's switch to Flint River water, it was really celebrated. I mean, media was there. They had this ceremony and the water treatment plant with a countdown and cheers and toasts with the river water, and a lot of folks were really celebrating that. This is getting back to our roots and returning to some self-determination, self-sovereignty. And of course, looking back, this is terribly heartbreaking because the river, I mean, the problems that treating river water is vastly more complex than treating lake water, and the upgrades to the water plant were insufficient to deal with that. And most ominously, the water was not treated with something called corrosion control. And this is something that you add to water to keep our very old, ill-maintained water lines from breaking down and having metals contaminate the water by the time it gets to our tap. On the health effects of lead from corroded water pipes getting into the water, there was a series of bacterial issues and other issues with the water even before the lead came on the radar. There was also this huge outbreak of something called Legionnaire's disease. That's what actually killed people. With lead, what's frightening about this is that there is no amount of lead that is safe. Children are much more susceptible to it because their developing bodies absorb up to 5 times more lead than adults. And its toxic effects, which can range from more antisocial aggressive behavior, stunted growth, anemia. For adults, miscarriages, reproductive problems, it can take a little while for some of these to show up. But they're also unfortunately uncurable. So this is very funny about lead poisoning. The reason that the term Saved by the Bell came up was that in England, they used to use lead cups in bars and stuff. And so people, if they were getting drunk, they would get dead drunk because they drink and they actually were getting lead poisoning. And so they'd pass out and people would think they were dead. And so then they'd bury them and they put a bell because that's why they have the watchman, is that if someone woke up out of lead poisoning and they were buried under the ground, they could ring the bell and the night watchman would dig them out. Otherwise, they would find that sometimes people would wake up from lead poisoning and they'd scratch the inside of their coffin and then they'd really die.
Christ.
But it's lead poisoning that can do that. How Flint being run by unelected emergency managers factored into the crisis. It was huge. In Flint, they had an emergency manager appointed in 2011, and a series of them were put in place consecutively up through April 2015. So essentially, through the entirety of this crisis, and the decisions that were made here. Two of the officials ended up being indicted in criminal investigation that has since followed. And there's an unusually direct route from the state's accountability for what happened in Flint, given that this was a system that was in place in Flint. On Flint's history with issues like racism, segregation, and redlining, the water crisis did not start with the switch in April 2014. I think it really goes back decades. Flint, unfortunately, was the most segregated city in the north and the third most segregated city nationwide. And it became a destination for African American migrants from the south, where its population was exploding. Everybody's coming from these General Motor plants, and this was to these General Motor plants, and it was really brought to a point of crisis. It had two neighborhoods where black people could live, and very explicitly they were denied access to their homes, to other homes. Once there was fair housing laws and school desegregation laws that broke down the system, Flint's population started to decline, as a lot of these white middle class and upper class folks left. So Flint today has less than half the number of residents it had in the 1960s. The infrastructure did not shrink along with the population. So it has far fewer and poorer people who are expected to pay to support a water system that was meant to serve twice as many, not just the residents, but also those huge industrial plants. The pipes were built with large circumferences to support all the water they needed. So this directly related to how unaffordable the water was for residents. And it directly relates to how this infrastructure was disintegrating. And it also meant that the folks who lived in areas where there was a lot of vacancy, they had water that was much riskier to drink because the water sits stagnant longer, and the pipes that go over stretches of vacant land with these large pipes in it, it has more time to absorb the corroding lead and iron and other contaminants from the pipes. So it's racism that caused the water crisis in Flint. And
Yeah.
didn't their water was on fire coming out of their
That's Cleveland.
Cleveland's water was
Yeah.
on fire.
That's the mistake by the lake. That's another story. But that has something to do with that. Also, Cleveland's having, and parts of the suburbs of Cleveland are having a water crisis as well because the plant that's right by, is it Lake Superior? Their water caught on fire because of all the stuff that was being dumped into the water. And this is one of the reasons why the EPA was established to avoid these situations. But it's just gotten worse and worse over the whole past decades.
This is a book excerpt from The Poison City by Anna Clark. We'll read a little bit of this and see how. On a hot summer day in the summer of 2014, in the Civic Park neighborhood where Pastor R. Sherman McCatherine preaches in Flint, Michigan, water rushed out of a couple of fire hydrants. Puddles formed on the dry grass and splashed the skin of delighted kids who ran through it. But the spray looked strange. The water was coming out dark as coffee for hours, McCatherine remembered. The shock of it caught in his throat. Something is wrong here. Something had been wrong for months. That spring, Flint, under the direction from state officials, turned off the drinking water that it relied on for nearly 50 years. The city planned to join a new regional system called the Karagamandi Water Authority, and while it waited for the KWA to be built, it began bringing its water from the Flint River. McCatherine didn't pay much attention to the politicking around all this. He had enough to worry about at his busy parish. But after the switch, many of his neighbors grew alarmed at the water that flowed from their kitchen faucets and shower heads. They packed public meetings, wrote questioning letters, and protested at City Hall. They filled clear plastic bottles from their taps to show how the water looked brown or orange, and sometimes had particulates floating in it. Showering seemed to be connected with skin rashes and hair loss. The water smelled foul. The sip of it put the taste of cold metal coins on your tongue. But the authorities said everything was all right and you could drink it, so people did, McCatherine said later. Residents were advised to run their faucets for a few minutes before using the water to get a clean flow. And as the months went by, the city tinkered with the treatment and issued a few boil water advisories. State environmental officials said again and again, there was nothing to worry about. The water was fine. Brown people that live in Flint, Michigan. Whatever their senses told them, whatever the whispers around town, whatever Flint's troubled history with powerful institutions telling them what was best for them, this wasn't exactly hard for people like McCatherine to believe. Public water systems are one of this country's most heroic accomplishments. a feat so successful that it's almost invisible. By making it commonplace for clean water to be delivered to homes, businesses, and schools, we have saved untold lives from what today sound like antiquated diseases in a Charles Dickens novel: cholera, dysentery, typhoid fever. Here in Flint, it was instrumental in turning General Motors, founded in 1908 in Vehicle City, as the town was known, into a global economic giant. The advancing underground network of pipes defined the growing city and its metropolitan region, which boasted of being home to one of the strongest middle classes in the country. McCatherine is a tall, bald man with a thin mustache and scratchy rasp in his baritone voice. At the time of the water switch, he had led the non-denominational Joy Tabernacle Church for about 15 years. It was founded by the YWCA in downtown Flint, where it held baptism in the swimming pool. But in 2009, it made home in Civic Park, where a Presbyterian closed after 85 years and gave its sanctuary over to the young and hopeful congregation. By then, Civic Park, one of America's oldest subdivisions, was a desert of deserted, historically significant homes. The pastor said, built between 1917 and 1919 by General Motor and DuPont Company along the curving tree-lined boulevards. The tidy houses were designed for Flint's auto workers and their families, but over the years, the neighborhood was blighted by vacancy. Empty 2 stories with lurching front porches and crumbling roofs sat alongside crisply painted homes where Flint residents, they sometimes call themselves Flintoids or Flintstones, still lived in their lives. When the sound of gunshots on the street outside interrupted services, McCatherine gave a nod to the church musicians, urging them to play louder. Some called Joy Tabernacle a thug church, he said, but McCatherine saw the good. The young men filling his pews built a proud society, if not by getting their name on the honor roll, then by tagging their names with spray paint. In the end, the people just wanted to be seen. The ghosts of the past went well beyond Civic Park. Between General Motors and United Auto Workers, which won the right to collectively bargain in Flint's sit-down strike in the 1930s, the city had been a flourishing hub for American innovation. There were more than 100 different manufacturing establishments in the town. 10 of them employed at least 1,000 people. And they made not only all automobiles, but paints, varnishes, tools, dyes, cotton textiles, and a wealth of other products. Flint had one of the highest per capita incomes in the nation, and despite being severely segregated, it was a magnet for African American migrants from the South. When then Vice President Hubert Humphrey stopped by during a campaign for the 1964 presidential election, he praised Flint for zooming ahead with unbelievable economic growth and progress. Workers earned wages that are very good, Humphrey said. And because of the great labor management program in his community over many years, there's been a constant rise in the standard of living. Away from the assembly lines and executive suites, the people of Flint felt that their city shouldn't just be a place to work, it also became a place to thrive. Charles Stewart Mott, an auto pioneer who became GM's largest single stockholder and a 3-term mayor, created a nationally renowned community school program that provided education, skill-building workshops, and social services. His influence is still felt through the C.S. Mott Foundation, a philanthropic power broker headquartered in the city. The Parks Department had a robust forestry division that cultivated a beautiful thicket of willow, oak, and elm trees along the avenues. The Michigan School for the Deaf expanded into new buildings that served hundreds of students around the state. In a green campus just east of downtown, the city invested in its cultural life by developing the Flint Symphony Orchestra, as well as state-of-the-art stage and auditorium for schools, both the performing arts and visual arts, youth theater, a sunny public library, museums for local history and classic cars, a large planetarium in the state, and sweeping Flint Institute of Arts, which lined its galleries with everything from Matisse paintings to Liechtenstein silk screens to carved African masks. I didn't know Flint was such a badass place.
Yeah, it was a thriving, yeah.
And now it's a shithole.
It's scary there. But no, it was, yeah, all this is some American history that a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know until probably about 10, 12 years ago. Seriously. And it's so sad. This is why I, like cities like Detroit and Cleveland, like this is the tragic story of an American city that
we by funding capitalism and by making corporations more important than people, and that their funds and the stockholders' money is more important than people, we moved our manufacturing to other nations.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't have jobs for people. And then the only jobs we create are like McDonald's jobs. And then we look down on people for having fast food jobs.
And now they have poisonous water.
And now they have poisonous water.
And disease. I mean, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
This is how we treat each other. And when people always say, "Oh, why does everything have to be about race?" This is another example.
Yeah. In the later part of the 20th century, GM closed most of its plants in the city and eliminated almost all the local auto jobs. Smaller companies followed suit, simply shutting down for good. Between 1998 and 2013 alone, nearly 150 of them, corporations, exited the downtown area. With the shuttered businesses came the shuttered houses and schools. More than half the population, which had reached a high point of nearly 200,000 in 1960, disappeared. Some 22,000 left between 2000 and 2010, an 18% drop in just 10 years, and the fourth largest population in the country, behind only Detroit and New Orleans, which had suffered Hurricane Katrina, and Gary, Indiana. Not long after, Flint's population plunged below 100,000 for the first time since 1920, and the empty structures they left behind were both disheartening and dangerous, not only because they were prone to break-ins and fires, but also because they literally crumbled onto the sidewalks where people passed. At the same time, the Flint metro region, that is, the suburbs, grew exponentially. It was a widening circle of wealth with a deteriorating center.
That would be like cities around. There's Davis. What's another one? My friend, she's from outside Flint, but she claims Flint, and you can definitely tell and see the difference between the heart of the city of Flint and then the surrounding suburbs like Davis, Michigan, and stuff. So it's, yep, it's pretty fucking sad. And then her parents are from Kentucky. They're poor white people from inside a holler in Kentucky and Appalachia. They migrated to get work at GM. Her dad worked at GM for over 25 years, and her mom worked for a boating company and then got laid off. And I believe her dad got either retired by the late 90s, early 2000s, but her mom ended up getting laid off at the boating place. So, I mean...
It's just the next couple paragraphs are just about how they lost billions of dollars because people left, and how...
It's a ghost town.
How can a city survive? And they also have a winter.
Yeah.
Like, if your city deteriorates, what happens? How do you get heat?
It's... And the cold can really... there's so many potholes in that city. Like, the streets are really bad. I remember we were driving down this Dort Highway. It is a notorious highway where it's a prostitution, there's only four cop cars in that whole area, where you would always see cops picking up prostitutes. Let's see, I was hanging out in a trailer park, saw some white trailer people fighting in the middle of the street like it was Fight Club. That was weird. White dude came up to my friend's brother's trailer with a shotgun, saying that he was from South Carolina and wanted to meet some friends. That was weird. We got chased downtown because these dudes didn't want to holler at us. That was in downtown Flint. Yeah, Flint, it's sad.
Poor Flint. Hey, on our next show, some call me Tim, we have Luke Newman. He's in the house.
Yeah.
Luke Newman, do you know anything about, I wanted to say prostitution, but Flint, Michigan?
I know that it's a fucked up situation.
Flint, Michigan is a fucked up situation. He knows that. Yeah, so we were just talking about their water, and that it's systemized racism that just brings everybody down.
And no one can get clean water. And General Motors was pumping all that shit into the water, which actually really messed it up. It's all that. I mean, the corporations really did a number on that city. But
well, are people in Flint, Michigan, are they people? No. Are they really people? Not anymore.
No.
It's people. I mean, that's the thing. Who's a person? Who do we protect? Who gets to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Who gets to do that?
Maybe you should send your dad this article.
I know.
No, he's gonna come back with something even more ignorant. Well,
It's so sad.
I mean, the thing is, what's your excuse for this? When people like the thing that he sent to you for us to read.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you say about this city that these people are just like, oh, well, they just gave up? No, General Motors and a lot of those companies left.
Yeah, well, for profits.
Yeah. So is it the people's fault? Though people wanted to work because those people were thriving at one point in time. Those people were able to put their kids in college. Those people
Not
bought
that,
homes.
not that college. We were taught, it's an American fallacy that we're taught that if you go to college, everything's going to be okay.
Ha!
Like you're going to have a job, everything's fine. You're educated, therefore you're somehow worthy of.
You're
whatever.
gonna make it.
We're gonna
Make it after all. Throw my hat up in the air.
Uh,
But
I looked
yeah,
up prostitution San Francisco, and the first
Hey.
thing that came up is prostitution in San Francisco is legal, right?
I don't
Isn't
think.
it? Is it? I don't know.
I don't think so. No, it's not.
It's not. It's not.
No, I mean I think it should be.
I think it should be. I think it should be too.
I think prostitution should be legal all over.
I think that sex
We're all-
worker
yeah.
is.
And if you have places where you could like get your get checked out for STDs and what have you, I don't see why that'd be an issue.
No, I think
I mean
women have been getting married for years, and that's just another form of.
I'm a
prostitution.
bartender. You hey, weren't you talking about what you have to wear in order to sell things?
That's right. I'm wearing.
That's a form of
I'm
prostitution.
wearing
You're
kind of a sexy outfit so that I can get better tips tonight because it makes a difference.
Exactly. So we're all prostituting
does.
ourselves.
It
We're
makes
just
a
not getting on
difference.
our knees.
Right. Well,
Well, I mean,
I was married for a long time, and I I bought into that thing of when you get married, they have constant consent, and you just you just subscribe to it. It's sort of I guess it's a Christian background thing that.
or when I was
Why
single.
serve your husband?
When I was single and hungry, I would go out to dinner and get nice meals.
I always wanted to
And,
do that.
and sometimes I felt obligated, which is wrong, to give it up for this wonderful dinner that I have. And part of me feels kind of bad and awkward about it, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, I mean, and I've always kind of wished that I could
Prostitute
subscribe
yourself
to
for a
that.
steak.
Yeah, I know. I love
I had a
steak.
great steak dinner and I prostituted myself.
Well,
He could have just gave me the money. Actually, that would have been much better. He just gave me the money.
we have a couple minutes left, and I'm going to read this from 100 years ago, Maiden Lane. That's now Maiden Lane here in San Francisco, surrounding Union Square, is hoity-toity shops of like expensive, like $4,000 dresses.
Didn't it used to be dusty at one point in time
Well,
too, over there?
it used to be where the prostitutes hung out. So this is from a thing written 100 years ago. The worst cribs in San Francisco were probably those which lined both sides of Morton Street, that's Maiden Lane. These dens were occupied by women of all colors and nationalities. There were even a few Chinese and Japanese girls. And not only were the Morton Street cribs the lowest in San Francisco's red light district, they were also the most popular, partly because of the great variety and extraordinary depravity of the women to be found there, and partly because the police seldom entered the streets unless compelled to do so by a murder or a serious shooting or stabbing affray. Ordinary fights and assaults were ignored. They're also across the street from all the churches. Every night, and especially every Saturday night, this dismal bedlam of obscenity, lighted only by the red lamps above the doors of the cribs, which was thronged by a tumultuous mob of half-drunken men who stumbled from crib to crib, greedily inspecting the women as if they had been so many wild animals in cages. From the casement windows leaned the harlots, naked to the waist, adding their shrill cries of invitation to the uproar, while their pimps haggled with passing men and tried to drag them inside of the dens. If business was dull, the pimps sold the privilege of touching the breasts of the prostitutes at the standard rate of 10 cents each, or 2 for 15 cents. But on a Saturday night, some of the more popular women, who had built up more or less regular clientele, remained in their workshops from dusk till dawn, while the pimps kept men standing in line outside, their hats in one hand and money in the other. It was not uncommon for a Morton Street prostitute to entertain as many as 80 to 100 men in one night.
Ow. I would
Wow.
have to sit on some ice.
Here were the standard rates. Mexican women were 25 cents. Black, Chinese, or Japanese women were 50 cents.
What?
French women were 75 cents.
See?
American women, white women, were $1. And red-haired women, especially if Jewish, were negotiable.
Oh, God.
The San Franciscan believed that redheads, especially Jewish redheads, were sizzling hot. A madam named Idaform Kate made a fortune during the 1890s by offering at least one red-haired Jewess in every crib. Cool. That's prostitution
Well, here's
history.
something, that there's just to pry into the whole black and Japanese Chinese.
Yeah, you're worth more than Mexicans.
I know. That's kind of.
That's great.
So here's how you bring Asian unity to black people. We are worth the same thing.
Hell yeah.
2 quarters.
2 bits. No,
Really?
2 bits is a quarter.
Yeah.
50 cents would be 4 bits.
4 bits.
It's 2 bits if you're
And they
Hispanic.
treat the Latinas like, God damn.
Isn't that crazy?
I like how the Jewish prostitutes were negotiating.
Negotiable.
The Jewish prostitutes are negotiable. That is.
So
that
she
is
could get
some
25
funny
cents
shit.
to maybe $3.
Maybe $3.
Damn.
Redhead Jewesses, but we're hot, spicy bitches.
And probably because the drapes match the curtains. Wait, did I get that right?
Sure.
Or was it the opposite? Oh,
Well,
okay.
and
Wow.
God bless 100 years ago from when Bush was appreciated. I talk about my hair skirt all the time. I long for those days before razors, when it was just like when the bush was full, when we didn't finger fuck the bud.
I see.
Keep it real.
Now I'm going to read about San Francisco prostitution.
Maiden Lane, baby.
Maiden Lane. At least they're diverse.
Neighbor.
God damn
All
no.
the ladies. Well, this has been the AltaCast. Thank you, Latoya. As always, pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for the coffee. This was a
Oh,
lot of
you're
fun
welcome.
stuff.
This was fun. We went all
We went
over the world
all the way around.
and came back full circle.
Came back to prostitution. I don't know where we started today. Probably with Trump being a prostitute.
Sexism.
Sexism, yes. We'll just get it right back.
Entitlement and
Entitlement,
and
that's
and
Rape,
Kavanaugh and stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
and then we go full circle.
prostitution. Just
80
give us the money.
80 men.
80 men a night.
There was a Ben game. Ooh, goddamn, that's a lot of ice to sit on.
Oof. They must have had small dicks back then, or really enormous vaginas.
No, I just think the nasty dicks.
I smell yucky. They didn't
Yeah,
shower.
and then it's showering.
Gross.
They probably had mud butt.
Gross.
Swass. Okay. On that note.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. here on
Bye.
AltaCast. Bye. Always end on an anal joke. So, yeah, DJs. And then just double click on that new breaker. Thank you. Press play again. Oh, there you go. There we go.
Hey.
There you go. Press. Maybe try to trade the up the top. There you go. Okay. Woo! We did it.
That was fun. Now I pass the mic on to you.
Yeah. So let's put these back. What was this? Was 2 and that was 4.
That was
Yeah. This
2.
2 is.
Or that's 3. Is that one 3?
This is 4.
But that's 4.
You can sit anyone you want. You can pick any microphone you want.